Good morning, friends. Welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Kat, and if you're new here, we've been baking our way through Some of My Best Friends Are Cookies by Emelia Jackson. Today's recipe is rhubarb lattice biscuits, and I've got my rhubarb jam that I made with you last week. As you can see, it has set up completely now, and I've also got my dough, which I pre-made. So I am going to take you back to making the dough, and then we're going to get on with making these biscuits. So here we have 160 grams of butter and 140 grams of caster sugar. And we are just going to beat these together until they are smooth. We're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1 egg. We're going to mix that to combine. Then we are going to add 300 grams of plain flour in 2 batches. So we add half of the flour, beat that in, and then we add the second half of the flour. We are then going to wrap up this dough. You can use parchment paper or plastic wrap, and we are going to pop this in the fridge for at least 2 hours or overnight. So I've rolled out my square. It's a couple of millimeters thick, and it does actually say to do the flat part of the biscuit first, but I prefer to do the lattice first because it's much easier to make a flat biscuit out of a lattice compared to making a lattice out of a flat. And it is quite warm here today, and I'm in the sun. So I think I am going to have to put these back in the fridge after I've made the lattice, just because the butter is melting really fast. So I've rolled out a rectangle. It is 2 millimeters thick, and now I've got to cut all of these into strips that are about, it says 8 millimeters wide. I'm just going to do about a centimeter, just because I think that'll be a little bit easier. And usually I would measure, but I'm just going to eyeball. So you can do the lattice however you like to do it. I usually just fold back every second strip, but this has gotten very soft very fast. This is absolutely just crumbling, probably because of the sun. I think if it was a little bit less warm, this would be a little bit easier. So all I've done is I've folded up every second, and then I've laid a strip across, and then I folded those first lot of strips back and then folded up the strips that weren't lifted. Then I put in a second strip, fold these back down, and lift the first ones up again. I'm just going to see how many I can get. I'm just going to put these back in the fridge. You can see I hope you can see all of the butter is melting on the surface, so they definitely need to be chilled before I bake them. And what I've done, because the bases for these biscuits are 2 to 3 mils thick, and they cook for about 6 minutes at 180 degrees. And the lids for these biscuits, because they are latticed, they are meant to be thicker. So they're meant to be 4 to 6 mils thick. And they need to bake for about 8 minutes. So what I did, because I ran out of the lattice and I didn't feel like making another batch of lattice with how wet and sticky the dough was getting in the sun, I have done a bunch of plain lids, which are 4 mils thick, and I am just doing some plain biscuits. So these ones are just plain. They've still got a thicker lid, they've still got jam, but they're not latticed like the original ones. So these lids are still cooling, but the first batch is constructed, so let's give them a try. These are very nice. I would like the rhubarb jam to be even more tart than it is, but that is my personal preference. I make my rhubarb jam with half the amount of sugar that a traditional recipe calls for. But these are very nice. I think that they will be quite popular with my family. The biscuit is a little bit chewy. It's got crispy edges, a little bit chewy, good amount of jam. I think they're really delicious. Thank you for being here with me today as we made these rhubarb lattice biscuits. If you would like, I will pop another video here that you can enjoy between now and my next upload. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.